the Row Salpa Margaux 17. That's what I'll be reviewing today. She has a big presence and takes up most of the seat. When I first saw this gorgeous style, and so Vogue calls it Resort 2024, but the Row calls it Winter 2023. It's a little confusing. They do summer and winter, and Vogue will call it pre-fall and resort, just so you know. So when I first saw this, I actually nicknamed it the half-baked Margaux because it's so deconstructed and it looks like it's in the middle of the process. They sort of just abandoned it and said, okay, you know what, it's done, send it out. Immediately when I pulled the bag out of the box, I thought this is much bigger than I thought it would be, because I have a 17. The 17 Margaux is a bigger bag. If you do it in the pebbled version, it has more give and it's just softer and more malleable. If you do it in the saddle leather, it's stiffer and it looks bigger. If you go back to one of my Margaux videos, you'll see that this was the dilemma I was having when I was deciding between the 15 and the 17. I do prefer the 17 because it goes over the shoulder, but I ended up with the 15 in the saddle leather for both my other Margaux. The Salpa is it's a saddle leather. It's a semi-polished saddle leather, so it has well, I mean, it's just, everything about the bag is pretty consistent in that way. It's not fully polished, it's semi-polished. It's not fully stitched up, it's half stitched. It's got threads hanging from it. And I'm gonna show you some of the neat detailing on this. So let's talk about it overall. 17 inches across the base, just the same as the other bags. The width of the bag is how they name the Margaux. So the 17 inches across, the 15 would be 15, and so on. This is 12 inches in height, and then 10 inches at the base. It has 5 feet on the bottom. Incidentally, that's how you can tell a 17 from a 15, is it would have a 5th foot. The shape of the bag is rectangular, as the other 17 is a little wider, right? So it has 2 rolled covered top handles. It has this beautiful reinforced, very thick stitching running through here. And off of the handles, as you can see, these strings, which in the front of the bag, at the sides of the bag, coming off of the stitching at the sides, and at the back as well. And they're decently long. The Salpa Margaux doesn't have the gold or silver hardware, the buckles. That's what it's missing from the sides. It has the leather pieces, but it's, again, missing because it's half-baked, right? That's the idea. So it's missing the buckles. This has this beautiful trim, which kind of goes all around the base and carries through. And it really is a sharp contrast against the black. It pops. It's double layered here too. A beige piece and then a white piece. Inside you have a big gaping hole like the other Margaux. There is a zippered pocket and then 2 interior slip pockets as well. For closure you have leather ties. I mean, I never close my 17s, but you could for this one. It's not lined in canvas, it's not lined in suede, it's leather all the way through. It doesn't really weigh a lot. It's not a heavy bag. It's not like the Hermes Kelly or Birkin at all. So I wouldn't worry about that. And it does fit a 15. I took my husband's MacBook and put it in, and his is 15 inches across. You can put it in quite easily, and there's a little bit of space left. You know, the 17 is a perfect overnight bag. It's a perfect travel bag. I would even say it's a great weekender. It does go over the shoulder if I'm not wearing a coat. It's very edgy, looking with this contrast trim all around it and the threads hanging out and missing buckles. It's super, super cool. The saddle leather just makes it so rich. But for the cons, the saddle leather, for those of you that are bothered by scratches, I mean, I have the belted Margaux in the 15 and it is all scratched up. And it doesn't bother me, but it does bother some people, so that's something that they might release this in pebbled later, depending on how well this does. I mean, I don't even see it for sale anywhere right now, so maybe you can wait, but so that's the first one. The other problem is, because of this trim, it takes up a little extra space, and so getting it over a coat is trickier. It doesn't fit. And even when I'm putting it over the shoulders without the coat, this part has to fold a bit. The other one is the threads. As cool as they are, they're going to be dragging, and if you carry it by hand, and whenever you go somewhere, if you take the bag, if you're going out for lunch and you put your bag down somewhere, you have to be mindful where the threads are going because they will get dirty. They're sewn really nicely. I mean, the threads they've used are really beautiful. They're silky and smooth and finished properly, but they may get caught in things. They may end up getting dirty. So that's a problem. Then the trim. The trim is beautiful, but it's white and beige. And I have typically stayed away from white and beige for one reason. I can't keep it clean. There's color wash with denim, with coats, especially for cotton. So, and I don't know how easy that's going to be to clean. There's one more thing to mention about the Salpa in the 17. Because of the trim, which makes it cool, it makes it look that much bigger. This is my 17 pebble next to the Salpa 17. I know the pebbled is generally a little sloppier and slouchier because pebbled leather gives more, and plus this is the canvas lined version, so it's extra sloppy. And two things that make this bag look bigger than a regular 17 is number one, that it's saddle leather, and number two, that it has the trims. Much bigger looking bag. This is perfect for a taller person. Perfect for a lot of men that have been asking me about 15 versus 17. I'm like, no, 17. The 15 is different from the 17 in the details. So there's white top stitching on the 15. The threads on one of the handles is white, and the trim is a little different as well. Overall, it's the same idea, but executed just a little differently. So there's a uniqueness to each of the bags, and there's something for everyone. So those that prefer a 15, and maybe in this bag, the 15 kind of looks like the 17 because of the extra piece of fabric, and that might be the way to go. But I do know that a lot of people want the option to put the 17 over the shoulder. I'm on the fence. I'm not sure if I'm keeping this or not. It was one of the bags that I loved right away and talked about it on my stories. The pricing on the Margaux, the Salpa Margaux. The 15 is $4,550, and the 17 is $6,890 US. It's not a small amount of money to spend on a bag. I have a couple of Margaux. I'm debating. The debate in my head right now kind of goes like this. I have two saddle 15s maybe. I part with one of them and replace it with this, which would be so wonderful. And I just don't know which one. I have a very classic, beautiful, simple saddle Margaux. One of the originals, actually barely touched, and it's got suede lining. I love it. It's very special to me. I'm not sure I want to part with it. But then I could guilt-free almost put her in my closet. It's different. Not everyone carries it. I'm sure you've observed in the past 6 months, the Margaux bag has just exploded. It's become so popular. I'm not going to use the word ubiquitous because it's a very expensive bag, and it's not ubiquitous unless you're looking for it. But a lot more people are carrying it, and this is special, and I really like that. It's a bit more unique. If this is your first Margaux, don't do a Salpa. If this is your second Margaux, maybe do a Salpa, because the first Margaux should be more classic. And I have indicated that there are some cons to this bag, the threads and this piece that kind of gets in the way when you're trying to put it over your shoulders, and it might be difficult to keep it clean. Not that that is a hindrance for someone like me, but it might be if you haven't purchased a Margaux yet. I mean, go classic first, and go black, and go pebbled, because it's much easier to manage that leather. But I think as a second or third bag, ooh, it's just gorgeous. That is my Margaux 17 Salpa review.